Hi, I'm Gabe.
And I'm Kat.
And we're
the Ghouls next door.
Talk about that spooky stuff.
Yeah.
That's what we do here.
No, I don't want to anymore forever today.
What?
I don't know. I'm just saying stuff.
Why are you being so glum?
I don't know. Maybe I'm sad. You don't know.
Are you being upset because we have such a gloomy man to talk about?
No, I like Joe.
Yeah, but his stuff is pretty.
Yeah, I mean, he's a little
pretty
sad. Yeah.
Which is interesting.
I found him very interesting. I was not well, I never expect to be as interested in the things that I look up until after the fact, where I'm like, wow.
Hey.
Wow.
What a thing we just learned.
Yeah. I never expect it to be, like, super fascinating. And then I'm always like, oh, cool.
You're like, who is this guy? Joe Hill? I don't know what that is.
I was just like, you're not Stephen King. That's all I know. And then...
That's so sad.
I know. But everything we watched, I was like, oh, I've been missing out, man.
Yeah.
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 I want to read Horns. I don't like reading books, but I want to read it.
It is very interesting. So if you didn't get it, we are talking about Joe Hill today.
Yes.
Who is an acclaimed author and is amazing. He's very talented and just so happens to be the son, one of the sons of Stephen King.
That himself.
Yes, because he's not joking. That would be funny.
Yeah.
Joking.
I get what you're doing.
Funny. But he's Joe Hill, and he did try like other
names,
pseudonyms.
Yeah.
At some point to like he wanted to make sure that people liked him for him.
Uh-huh.
And not for who his dad is. But he also said that there were times when he and his brother would write screenplays and send them out under their name.
Yeah.
And people knew that it was King's sons, and they still would like get denied. It was like, this is still bad.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. This is bad.
Yeah, and I thought that was really interesting because a lot of it was like him trying to learn like what it is to write for himself and like not be bad at it. Because I think the times where he was bad is he was trying to write other stories that like weren't his, and he was like really trying to figure out who he was.
Yeah.
And once he actually did that, like AKA Heart-Shaped Box and Horns, he was like, whoa,
it's like, well, I have a
good.
Thing. Yeah.
I'm good at this. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he's one of the newer horror people, right? Because even with King, like he's still around, he's still making new things, but he is already established. Like he's already and King is Hill is also established, but he's more recent.
Yeah, he has great fan art, or like just art of him, of like pictures of him that aren't his actual face.
Oh,
like it's drawn of his face.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I want cool fan art of not my face.
Yeah.
Just my hair.
It's not good enough when I draw it.
It's not fan art.
It's a fan
art
of you.
Okay. All right. We're getting cheesy. So we're talking about Joe Hill, who's, I think, the most recent of any of them.
Yes.
Like...
Of all the people we've talked about, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So... Stay tuned to hear why he's very unique and why he's one of my new favorites. Or he's kind of been a growing favorite for a lot of reasons, even outside of just horror things, like his other writings as well. So we're going to teach you about him. We're going to learn you.
We're going to teach you some wisdoms.
Yes.
We tell you all the facts. Here facts, still facts. About that spooky stuff. Yeah, spooky stuff.
Hey friends. Today, we're going to learn about Joe Hill.
Yay!
Excellent. Are you ready?
Yes.
Excellent. I don't know where that came from, but here we are.
I am in preschool now.
Excellent. If you can hear my voice, do not clap near the microphone once.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I did it. I'm sitting crisscross applesauce.
No, you're not. That was a lie.
In this scenario when I am in preschool.
Okay.
And you have the Book of Joe on your lap.
I do. We're
it is
tell you
illustrated with some creepy things, but also
cool
some
fan art.
Sweet things.
Yeah. So learning about Joe, I was really just like, oh man, This guy is super interesting. So I'm going to tell you why I find him interesting. The interesting thing about Joe is that he actually struggled a lot to like become a successful writer. And I just thought like his like coming of age story was really interesting. Like I respect the crap out of the fact that he was like, I'm not going to be just like in my father's footsteps. I'm going to be me.
Yeah.
I'm going to establish like who I am.
Unlike
and,
our
like,
president.
Yes. And then like he just kept going with it. He like knew, he acknowledged when his stuff was bad. Like he owned that. Like he was just like, yeah, no, it was really bad. I was just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, I don't it was bad. I read it again and I was like, oh, I'm happy they didn't publish that because that would have been,
Yeah.
ooh.
Like, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and like all
That
of his
happened.
stuff was like everything he was when he was talking about it was just like, well, my dad said like I probably should just put it under Joe King once I wasn't like hitting the ground right away.
Can it be Joseph King? It has to be Joe
I think it was
King.
Joseph King is probably what
Okay,
he
it's better.
recommended. But it was basically like Joe was like, I understand what you're trying to say,
Yeah.
but I'm respectfully going to do this my own way.
Yeah.
And like Steven, our main man Steven, was
Aw,
super
Steven.
supportive of his son, like for the entire thing. And it just honestly, like after seeing Horns, I know I am terrible at reading books. So you've told me like some of it's similar, some of it's not. But like even just from the film, I saw like a lot of themes that were very much like echoing his
Oh, yes.
struggle in life and like mental health situations and like it was just really cool. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, I love it when so much of like someone's identity is infused with what they're doing. So you really see that, I feel like, with Joe, and that like he's really just writing about stuff that's very much his because he learned the hard way that like doing anything different is going to come off inauthentic. It's going to be bad and people aren't going to like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think all of his stuff is like all about his stuff, but
No.
I thought Horns was definitely very like shadow of like what his situation was. So essentially, I know family business is the thing, but like that whole family is filled with writers. I thought that was
Yeah.
wild. Like his mom's Tabitha, correct?
Yes.
Number one, the best, awesome mom.
She's a great mom. Tabitha
Yeah.
King.
Yeah, so she wrote 8 books, novels, I
Wow.
think, which is a bunch. And then Owen and Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, look at me.
I
with
at
my
least
brain
know
things. I'm not even
Owen. I
looking at it.
don't
I'm
know
saying
Kelly.
words from my brain, guys. So Owen and Kelly wrote books as well, or were writers as well. I just thought it was really cool that like the entire family is out here like
Yeah.
trying to write stories.
Yeah, and on their own, like doing their own thing.
Yeah. But like
That's cute.
apparently Stephen and Tabitha were extremely like supportive of Joe and like even like in the times where he was really struggling and when he was like trying to find his voice.
Mm-hmm.
Like his dad would be like, you know, just to get you started, you could write under Joseph King.
Yeah.
And you probably at least just get like one. And I know you're talented, so you'll
Yeah.
keep getting them. And then you do Joe Hill. And he's like,
Yeah.
no, I got it.
Well, it's like you can at least get some money.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, at least one monies and then do the other ones.
Funny, but never once did they ever tell him he needs to do a different thing.
That's cute.
So I thought that was cool. And then like they actually, like similar to Tabitha back in the day,
Yeah.
supporting Steven, she went with Steven though in collaboration because
Yeah.
they both made a lot of money from their work that they're doing.
Yeah.
Offered to like financially support Joe and his wife and 2 sons. So I was like, that's pretty legit. He didn't get success right away though. He really had to work at it. And I'm going to put a disclaimer out there that BuzzFeed is not the tops of information finding, but I found a lot of good
Yeah.
information from our, because it was basically just a bunch of quotes from him.
Yeah.
I was like, these can't be false. Probably. I don't know. But we're hoping that they're not. So I read this article that's basically going about Joe Hill. He calls bullshit on the crazy artist
BS.
cliche.
He called BS on the crazy artist cliche.
Yeah, so I don't love the title, but it's okay. But it's written by Haley Campbell, and it's basically just a bunch of quotes from him, which is helpful. But my favorite one is that he said, which I was just like, yo, this is so true. He said, what I discovered was that getting help didn't make me less creative. And I feel like that is definitely a thing. Like, I know even when I was like in a bad place, I was like, I write the best stuff when I'm sad.
Mm-hmm.
when I am super upset, I write the most insightful, most profound, wonderful things.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I want to be sad all the time. So Joe realized that.
Yeah.
He was like, I will still write even after I start to get better from like all of this stuff, when he was really going through it, specifically when him and his wife got divorced. He did write a lot about like when he was sad, but he wasn't even just sad. He was really going through a lot of stress. But I found out he had a lot of wisdom. So I was like, Joe has wisdoms. It's pretty cool. And there's another good quote that really just like encompasses that. So Joe said, I was just really paranoid and really depressed and really unhappy and full of really nutty ideas. I would call my dad with the latest crazy ideas and he would patiently listen. He was the only person who would listen to me. And he talked to me about through and explain why my latest ideas about being pursued or prosecuted or persecuted was irrational.
It's so funny to think of Stephen King as a rational person. Like, rational, not irrational. Like, you're like, I'm having all these, like, wild thoughts and my brain's all mixed max. And he's like, it's okay. The world is fine. And he's like, what? You wrote it. You wrote monsters. Like, you wrote your nightmares. What do you mean everything's okay? He's like, it's chill, man.
Well, it's funny, too, because he also says something about that. I don't remember where I read that. But it was basically like, if your dad's a urologist, and you go home, he's not going to just constantly ask you about, like, your penis.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what happens. Like,
Yeah.
he did tell me a bunch of scary stories all the time because he knows what trauma does to children. Like, no.
Yeah, because it was, I believe it was because Leno had a quote where he was like, the only kids who probably don't want to hear bedtime stories from their dad are probably Stephen King's kids. And he was like, it's funny, but it's also really dumb. Because, like, of course he's not going to come in and be like, the world is evil. Now, good night. Kiss you on your head. Like, he's an adult person.
Good night, child.
Yeah. Yeah. People die and they're gone forever. Okay, bye. Love you.
Yeah, that's not what happened. At least, I don't know. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But he joked and said that's not what happened.
No, I'm sure he read Hop on Pop like the rest of them.
So Steven was like really supportive of him. And like specifically the thing that really stood out to me, it was he was the only person who would listen, which makes me really think of Ig from Horns, and that like everyone just didn't want him to be around.
Yeah.
Because of like what he represented, who he was, like all of that.
Yeah.
And when he was going through his divorce, I don't know if what he was going through caused his divorce or what his divorce activated the behaviors that he started to exhibit, which was extreme paranoia. And like basically feeling like people were watching him and like trying to get him, which is a very stressful experience. And similar to, honestly, to how like Ig was being like wrongfully persecuted, essentially.
Yeah, which is what what paranoia is, right? You're like, I don't know why, but everyone's paying attention to me.
Yeah, and it was just like, and also I just felt like he was being demonized in this divorce. And he felt he had to become what he was being told he was. Similar to how Ig becomes the devil.
Yeah.
Because everyone's telling him he's a murderer and evil.
Yeah.
So he was like, well,
I guess.
Here I am.
I
But
can't
even
really
then,
tell
like,
you,
he's
no.
still good, but he's doing things that are not like him.
Yeah.
That are, like, outside of his normal. And he's, by reaction of just being around people and them getting activated by him just being there, it's making people come out to be their worst selves.
Yeah.
So he's his worst self and they're their worst self. So I just thought that was really interesting because it's kind of, like, very much reminiscent of that. Basically how he described all the problems that he was having. And just like the extreme paranoia was really stressful for him, and he was nervous that he wouldn't be able to be creative anymore, essentially, if he got help. And it was like through his talks with his dad that he like his dad was just like, that's not rational. You will still be talented.
Yeah.
Like, you need to go to like seek counseling.
Yeah. Like,
and,
you'll only be more
okay.
talented because you can actually like sit down and do work.
Yeah.
Like, because you can actually focus and be yourself.
Yeah. And the way that he discovered writing again was really cute in that he, what is it called? He read, or he was copying The Bigger Bounce. So he just had one copy in his like single guy, I'm in divorce mode right now,
Okay.
house had like
His
nothing
man
in
cave.
it but like the bare necessities and the one book,
The simple bare
The
necessities.
Big Bounce, which is by somebody.
Gotcha.
But he essentially just copied the pages of the Big Bounce, which he titled The Bigger Bounce.
That's cute.
And then just like rewrote so he could get a flow again. When he was like putting his head above water from the divorce. This is like even before I think medicine. He just put his head above water. He didn't know how to write in this like traumatized state.
Yeah.
And essentially had to reteach himself. And then once he got like 40 or 50 pages into The Bigger Bounce, he could just write horns.
Yeah. So what I find interesting about Joe Hill is that he takes things like that are supernatural or fantastical and puts like real on them.
Yeah.
Like changes it into be like it's almost as if like if something fantastical were to happen in this world,
Yeah.
like our world, not a different
It's not a
world where
different
like
one, yeah.
like
Not
yeah.
multiverse.
Yeah, like I feel like it's just like if one day I walk down the street and then I could go to another, like if I was like the girl from NOS4A2 and like accidentally stumbled on the fact that I can go find things that are lost.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do I apply that in real, like just in my normal life? Oh, I find a wallet that's lost, right?
Yeah,
like,
right. What would I want to do in that situation?
Yeah, and it's like even with something like horns, where it's literally like a guy wakes up and he has horns on his head, and there's all this other stuff that's going on, and there's bigger themes and bigger emotions that are happening, but the core of it is like, oh, this one spooky kind of weird thing happened to him, and now like everyone's being really strange, but he's dealing with it very like normal.
Yeah, like just very human.
Yeah,
Like it's just like, well, we're this now.
yeah.
Oh, this is awful.
Yeah, I hate it. My favorite thing about horns was, and we'll talk about it a little bit in the film section, only because I don't think it can come across on screen as well, was when the people would like notice the horns.
Yeah.
And it was like this funny thing because they'd be like, huh, you got horns on your head. That's not normal. Kind of makes me feel weird. And now I want to tell you all this stuff. And he's like, no, please don't. I really, like, I need help because of the horns that you just noted. He's like, I don't remember the horns now. And he'd be like, what do you mean you don't remember the horns now? And he
now I
like,
just want to do my worst desires.
and he's like, could you just pause the worst desires? And I think it's just like, the way that all the stories are, it's just like, he is very good at taking this real problem and then putting on like an absurd premise that's like fun, but also has like motives and like has like a moral at the end of the story.
Yeah.
And it's it's really fun to kind of dive into them. I'm a really big fan of magical realism. So like Toni Morrison does a really great job where there's very real things happening and then like it's sprinkled in with some magical things that could be explained away by reality.
Yeah.
Like there's like a real answer and then there's like a fantastical answer where you're like, I want to believe in like
the
magic.
more fun answer.
Yeah, but there is a real answer.
Yeah.
With Joe, there isn't a real answer. It's like, no, this weird, like abstract, fantastical thing is happening and now we just kind of deal.
Yeah.
Like there is no like, he doesn't really have horns. He's just like manifesting his own guilt. And it's like, no, these people are doing some really dramatic things. And there's no way that the entire, like, and you just are forced to believe every single thing that happens for truth. Yeah. And just like take it for truth. You're just like, okay, yeah, now he's red. Now he's got a pitchfork. Now he's like, he's got snakes talking to him all Slytherin style. Like we get it and we believe it, even though it's absurd, because we're still just like, yeah, that's what's happening in this world. I'm more concerned about how he's going to figure out what happened to his girlfriend. What's her deal?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that was so interesting about it. And that like, you were also not focused so much on the horns. You're like, yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, you saw him and you
but also
look
like
away.
all this other stuff's happening about like near the horns. Like that's a factor.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like human times.
I think it's kind of fun in that he takes like, I think they all kind of do this except for, I'd say, Anne hers was about the monsters, right? Like
Yeah.
who are an extension of the self.
Yeah.
With someone like King and Hill and Kuntz, what we're doing is we're getting like real normal people, average
Oh, yeah.
run of the mill guys and girls and them, like everybody, right?
Yeah.
Who encounter something really weird, and now they're like, okay, yeah, cool, all right, let's figure out plan A. Excellent. and then they just do that. And they always work through whatever it is and react to those things in a very human ways, which
Yeah.
is like awesome, because it's just like, if you were in that position as just like a normal person, like how would you react? Probably similar, because you'd be like, I just have to do that now.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I feel like it's just, yeah, it's very natural, and it helps you kind of like envision yourself in it. Like it makes you more connected to the characters.
Yeah.
It's just you're very much like, it kind of takes the fun of like imagining what it'd be like if you were in the apocalypse. Except it's
Yeah.
just like, this is what really
Like a mini apocalypse.
like a mini apocalypse. Yeah, because it's like small problems, but they're big problems to you individually, probably.
Yeah, I would even say like in Horns at the very beginning, when he sees them, he has this whole internal monologue where his first thought when he sees them, like he touches them because he's like, what is this? And he's like, okay, either there's stuff growing out of my head, or I have some kind of tumor that is making me see this. And for the first half of the film or the book, he really solidly thinks that he just has like he goes to a doctor and people are telling him stuff, and he's like, all right, I just need to get into this doctor so the doctor can run an MRI or something. Tell me what's obstructing my logical thought that I would see horns on my head. Like, he just does not perceive it. And then as people start acting weird and the doctor themselves is like, that's not normal to have horns on your head. He's like, yeah. And he's like, I'm a perv. And he's like, why? Can we pause the pervertness for just a minute?
Yeah, just
and
like a
just like help out with these. And he was like, no. He's like,
can't.
okay. But it was just such an honest reaction, because it's kind of that thing. Like if you started seeing things, it's funny in horror that you always get that idea where there's someone like is kind of like jumping on too quick to what the actual like answer is. Like when we watch Carrie in Who Taught You How to Drive, which is a podcast we were guests on, we watched Carrie, which is Stephen King. And like the girlfriend, not Carrie, Christine.
Sorry, there we go. I was like, what?
Sorry, Christine.
Bucket of blood? I don't understand. Sorry,
I'm sure there's some of that, but Christine's different lady's name, and a car, not a girl with powers. So in Christine, she like the girlfriend and the best friend are like real quick to be like, the car is messed up.
Yeah, the car's
evil.
murdering people.
The car's evil. It's murdering
happening.
people. It's coming back to life. That's it. And it's like, what? Who would jump to that conclusion, right?
Yeah, there'd be like 80 other steps before we get to car murder.
Yeah. Where you'd solidly think like they skipped, my friend has had a break and is murdering people with his car, to straight up, the car is murdering people and try to murder me.
Yeah.
And I'm upset.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Like, how do you get
and I feel like
where's the line here?
Joe is like, it's not the car, guys, it's the guy.
Yeah.
You know, like my
But
natural.
also the car is doing that.
It's
but
also there.
The character's like, I think this is an extension of what that person's feeling. And then the car's like, yep. And that's
End
like,
of movie.
yeah. And that's like essentially what Joe Hill does. And so there's the mix of the fantastical and the real. And I kind of wanted to give like a little blurb of what each, to kind of get a glimpse into what I'm talking about, like to the premises of these books that he writes, so you can understand what I'm talking about. So one in Horns, which we're going to talk about the film, but in the book we have a man who is accused of killing his girlfriend Mirren, and one day he wakes up with horns on his head that force people to talk about their deepest and most evil unfiltered desires, which ultimately gives him like a pleasant tingling sensation when he feels the madness and starts like actually like feeding into it, which is another thing you can't portray on screen. Like he's not going to be like, ooh. Like, Daniel Radcliffe is not doing that. But in the thing, he was like, oh, my horns feel kind of strange. Like he would have this like really euphoric feeling, and then you understood why he was like, yeah, go tell that lady to tell her kid to shut up. That's cool.
Yeah.
And so eventually he uses this new curse/gift to solve the murder. Right.
Yeah.
So he takes this whatever happened to him, and he uses it as an actual tool. In Heart-Shaped Box, we have a former rock star who buys the suit of a man who died in that suit.
Yes.
And then is haunted by the ghost of that guy. But there's like layers to it, because it's like the ghost thinks that he or his dad, I really skimmed this, killed someone related to him. So there's like layers to it where you're like, why did he get this box? And he gets the suit in a box that's in a heart shape.
Is a heart-shaped box.
It is. So, but it's like, this is an absurd premise that made me think of like Button, or remember when the box came and they were like, if you push the button.
I think it's The Box.
The Box is the movie, but Button is the short story.
Gotcha.
And the Twilight Zone episode, I think, is called Button. But it made me think of that, and Needful Things by his dad. I was like, this seems like that. Like, you get this thing, you're like, it makes me famous, but also there's a ghost, and it's because I maybe killed somebody? I don't know. He also has a newer book that features 4 different stories called Strange Weather, and he has... Each one of these stories, our protagonist is put into some like perplexing and interesting situations, such as in Snapshot, a young man finds himself stalked by a man with a Polaroid camera that can erase memories, which is like Alzheimer's. Like, it's literally like this representation of like what happens if someone was stealing your memories, but it's literally a person with a camera. It's Needful Things, right?
Yeah.
Or a loft where a man's first attempt at skydiving goes awry and he lands on a solid cloud. Which is like, what? What's happening here? Where you're looking for freedom and suspense, but you're forced to be like level and on the ground. And like, what are you doing? And he can't find a way off of this cloud. I really want to read these books.
This sounds really cool.
Yeah. Or NOS4A2, which we're also going to talk about the series that came out from it. But it focuses on a woman who's trying to save a boy from a vicious supernatural killer who has set his sights on him, and leads her to a town called Christmas Land to fight this killer. But specifically, this woman has, what do they call it? Like the way or something.
Yeah, it's not like the shine, but it is of that variety. It is a shine
adjacent ability.
It's like her talent.
Yeah. He has one. It's like people who can travel through things not traditionally and have abilities that like,
I think it was like the way or something like that.
It's the idea that you can kind of like transfer, like you're not restricted to the world's rules. Like reality, but it manifests in certain ways for certain people. So one girl can, like, she uses a Scrabble bag to like do like the chips to figure out like it spells out a word, but she puts her whole hand in, it's like a bag of holding, puts her whole arm in there. It's really creepy. And then the main character rides her motorcycle through a bridge that was actually torn down and isn't real. But in NOS4A2, that's where we have like a girl who can find literally anything. Like, that's her thing. Is if something is lost, she goes through this bridge, and on the other side is the answer, is the thing that's lost.
And she pays for it with her eye.
Yes, there's always a price, right? But the first 2 times, one is like she finds keys.
Yeah.
She gets her mom's keys. The other one was, or her credit card. She got her mom's credit card. The other time was her dad's wallet. Or his watch. And so it's like...
You're always like real close to what the actual thing. You're word adjacent.
Yeah. But it's such a mundane thing. And then she finds her dad too. Yeah. But it's like, we could have just been asking around town. We don't have to be losing our eye. You didn't need to
sacrifice her eye. We could have just did some research. Google Maps.
But he, in the 20th century ghost stories, he has... it's just a bunch of short stories that he's assembled, that he's written. Some are horror, some are not. But there's supernatural things like sprinkled in. One that I found really, really like has like stuck with me is called Abraham's Boys. And the whole story, like up until like the last page, is really about like these 2 brothers who have like an overbearing, like very strict father. Like, it makes you think of like, they live in the country, and their dad is just like, you don't go in my study, and blah, 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 blah. And so you have one mischievous boy, because that's how it is, and you got the one good boy, and they convince each other to, like, get into, like, to break into the office.
Yeah.
And they get in there, and there's, like, it just seems like these, like, Yeah, spoilers to the short story.
For
in this
me,
book.
because I've never heard this before, but also
Yes.
everyone.
Spoilers for everyone. So they break into the big spoilers, into the office, and they're like, find some stuff, and they're like, this is kind of weird, and it slowly leads them to start exploring more about their dad, and then they're like, well, we've already come into one like forbidden area. Let's go to the forbidden area, and that's the basement. So they sneak into the basement, and there's a woman who's chained down there.
Yeah, it's guaranteed there has to be one. Are you kidding?
Yeah, and so
he
you're
has
like,
a whole family down there, maybe. You don't know.
And so you're like, oh my gosh, like their dad's a serial killer. Like, what is this? This is weird. And then it turns out that you find out what their last name is, and it's Van Helsing. And then he's actually a vampire hunter, and the woman who's chained to that is a vampire. But the kids are like, I thought you were a murderer, Dad. And it like ruins everything. And it's so great because it's literally not until the last like page where you're like, what, vampires? I thought this was about two mischievous boys going against their like hard father. What? Vampire, Van Helsing. And it's like, and it's funny because when you think of Van Helsing, it's like he was kind of the good guy because he was like going out and fighting the bad vampires.
Yeah.
But in this, we're like, this dad sucks. And so then the kids put a whole wrench in his plans. And it's like, it was good that he had that person chained up downstairs. This was the one good time that's allowed. Like, any other time it's not.
All I'm saying is, the vampires we saw last episode, those ones were nice, so.
Some of them were nice.
That's true, but still, so.
They were still eating people.
So maybe the kids are still doing good stuff.
Okay.
Let those mischievous kids run.
Yeah, let them do it. I will say, though, my favorite of the short stories is actually called Better Than Home. And it really is just about a dad trying to like connect to his son who's not a traditional son. Like he doesn't like sports and he's a little more difficult and he's possibly on the spectrum. And so he like, this dad is just like trying to communicate with him in the way that he knows how. And the kid is like, no one gets me. And then like kind of starts to see his dad trying to connect with him. And it was like this wholesome, like I was like gonna cry. It was a beautiful story. And when it ended, I was like, did I miss something? Where was the spook? Because I wasn't familiar with it, and I got 20th century ghost stories. I was like, sure. And so I literally Googled. I was like, what's up with Better? And I was like, what is the twist? What am I supposed to get from here that I totally missed? Like, where was the spooky? And people were like, nah, he just wrote a really nice story about a dad and his son trying to figure each other out, and it's real nice. And I was like, what? you could just do that?
It's like, maybe his dad, when he was young, they didn't get along so well.
Because he was a vampire hunter.
No, follow with me.
Yep.
Maybe him and his dad didn't get along so well when he was younger. And then, when he got older and was really going through stuff, the only one who could listen to him was his dad. And they became close.
Yeah. No, they definitely were connecting by the end of that story. It was cute. But it was like, I was waiting for there to be this awful like twist.
Yeah.
I was like, please no, it's so sweet.
It's so
I
nice.
really don't want you to like
Nice.
murder anybody. Please don't let this dad be a vampire and that Van Helsing's coming after. I don't want that. And then it wasn't. I was like, wow, thanks, Joe.
It was just like a nice story about his son and his dad.
Yeah. But he's also
Where it's like, maybe we're just different.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, like maybe we just write heartfelt things sometimes, just whatever we feel like. But what I think is what I have some respect for Joe as well is that he also knows when not to like make a joke, like when he knows when like reality sometimes is scary enough.
Yeah.
And we don't need to add supernatural things to it.
Yeah.
So in The Strange Weather, there's a fourth story. So we had those other ones that were cool, but there's a fourth one, and it's called Loaded, and it's about a shooting.
Oh.
So and there's no like supernatural. It's literally just like a man coping with this situation that happened to him. Because
that's
of
cool
gun
that he was just
violence.
like,
Yeah.
he didn't make it anything extra than that.
Yeah, he didn't feel the need to, and because it's like justifiably that's scary enough. We don't need to put any like funny gags or something absurd. He was like, no, this is an actual real life scary thing. Like, so this is what it is. You know, like he's either like, this is 100% real, or here's something super, super absurd on real life. Like, he's never like, I'm going to mess around with it. It's just like, here's a weird thing that's happening to normal people. Or he's like, no, real life, though. And I think that's like really a talent to kind of go from one to the other, where you're not kind of like stuck in, like, pigeonholed into this, like, space where it's like, I'm only going to make spooky stuff. And after, like, reading Better Than Home, I was like, this man is, like, one of my top favorite authors for his ability to do, like, to astound me for two completely different stories in the same book that I was like, wow. Like, he can do no wrong.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like I probably said this before because my brain doesn't retain information. But I really want to read his books.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a reader. I literally cannot focus on something if I read it, I'm going to forget the first half of it by the time I get to the end of it.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I still want to do it. He seems like it's worthwhile. I mean, a lot of the stuff that he writes about just seems really real. And I enjoy that.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to go get Strange Weather, because I think that would be really
I want to
good.
read it too, so get it.
Yeah.
I'll read it together.
Okay. And we can cry together. It'll be great.
That sounds wonderful.
Films. Yeah, films. Yeah, films. We watch some films. Now let's talk about those films. And all that spooky stuff. And all that spooky stuff.
So we watched things as well.
We did.
So we already kind of alluded to it. One, we watched Horns.
Yeah.
From 2013, and his director, Alexander Aja, who did High Tension and the new Crawl movie.
He did better on this.
Yes.
Never at any point I was like,
It was classic Alexander.
she murdered herself. I don't know. I mean, something dumb.
What a twist! Yeah.
Let's make a mockery of mental health issues. No, it was just normal.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you can't really do that when you're handed, like, source material that is Joe Hill. Like, you can't mess it up because he did a good job already.
Yeah.
What I think is really cute is Joe Hill, and I don't remember where I read it, just in, like, randomly looking on the internet. There was, like, an interview with him where he was talking about how he just, like, loved and appreciated the hard work that was going into it, and that people really dug it. Like, he really appreciated Alexander's work, and also Daniel Radcliffe, and I'm blanking on what the actress's name is, but he was like, they really put their whole selves into it, and he super appreciated. He was like, they tried so hard, and he was like, and it's a piece of work that is really, really hard to adapt to screen, and he was like, so for what I got, I'm really happy with. Yeah. But I and they did work really hard. He's like, but it is I handed them a very difficult project.
Yeah.
Like, I set them up for failure, and they ended up not failing, which was, like, great for him. So, the synopsis for Horns that you can read on IMDb is, in the aftermath of his girlfriend's mysterious death, a young man awakens to find strange horns sprouting from his forehead.
Yeah.
So it's Daniel Radcliffe.
He has an American accent.
He does.
He tries really hard.
Every time he's, like, angry, he does, like, this breathe thing, like, where he, like, has to inhale, like, after every, like, few words.
Yeah.
Like, he's, like, so angry that he can't breathe anymore. And I was like, what is he doing? And then I was like, I don't know if he's getting real meta, because the character does have asthma, and the character gets, like crapped on throughout the entire novel about the fact that he has asthma. They're like, you're weak because your lungs don't work. Like, hey. Yeah. I was like, really? I was like, what is this? Hey. Even to himself, he's like, I always knew I was nothing because I couldn't even breathe. And it was like, what are you like, your brother is allergic to literally everything.
I relate to that, though.
Yeah. It makes it
I'm
hard.
also allergic to everything. They just put the two kids together, it's me.
Yeah.
I'm in this film.
And now you know what Joe Hill thinks of you.
That's not nice. I like Joe.
He doesn't think that of you. He would say, write what you know. Use it to empower yourself. And use your inhaler.
Correctly, not 3 times.
Yes.
You only do 2 puffs.
I think I did. It might have been 2. Maybe I was misreading it. There was just some things where I was like the bad guy. So spoilers, this film was from 2013. The book has been also out for a very long time. But the person who actually was a killer has, like, internal monologues or even just out turn. Like he just like one of like his first like encounters with Ig, he's like, yeah, I really liked that girl. They don't know who she is yet. He just saw her in church from behind and was like, she seems really pure and virginal, and that's my thing. Like, I want to, like, de-virgin someone. Because that's what I like. I don't want a girl like I forget her name, Glenna, who just throws herself at you and is a slut. Like, that, like, it was like...
Yeah, they kept referring to her as trash, which is just...
And she
rude.
herself thought she was trash, which is awful. But he was like, I don't want that, who's just, like, here to give it to me because they care about me. I want to go and, like, take it from someone. And Ig is like, let's be best friends. let me into
you
my
know
life.
how to craft metal.
Yeah, like
this is an equivalent exchange.
You fix the necklace. Maybe that means you win her over now, I guess. And also, you said some really scary stuff, but I don't really understand. And then, like, to the point where it's funny because, like, there's a point where Lee says, like, where's your porn? Or something like that. Like, he's like, where's your stash? And Ig is like, oh, yeah, of course I have that. And he gets it out of the Candyland board game. Yeah. And that's where he hides it. And he's like, oh, yeah, sick, man. And he was like, oh, yeah. Because he was like, no one plays Candyland anymore. So I knew they wouldn't look. And he was like, oh, I thought it was like a sick, like, pun, like it's sweets and candy here. And he was like, no, I just was being strategic. And then when he opens the box to reveal what his porn is and his stash, it's literally like X-rated, like, comic books. Because he's still, like, a child. And then Lee is like, well, let me show you some graphic, like, torment porn. And the guy's like, here's my new best friend. I have no worries. And the best part...
Well, wait, though.
Yes.
Is this before or after the fingers go explode?
This is before that.
Oh my god. Okay, continue.
So here's... And it's not fingers in the book.
He's not even guilt friends. He's real friends.
So again, spoilers, like, super hard. So in the book, what's really funny is the first part is, like, we are introduced to the fact that Ig wakes up. He's got a super hangover. He looks in the mirror. He has horns. He's like, what's wrong with me? Glenna eats a box full of donuts. He has this whole thing in it, and he ropes in the fact that, like, his girlfriend had been murdered. It was a sex crime. Everyone thinks he's a sex criminal. He says that a lot. And there's, like, all this. And he talks about, like, and it's long. It's a long time before we're even, like, introduced to Lee, really. He talks about, like, I had my friend Lee, who's not talking to me anymore, probably because everyone thinks I'm a murderer.
Oh, yeah. He was just like,
he's like, it sucks. Like, we know nothing about this guy. And then all of a sudden, he's interacting with his family, who, to be fair, if you're going to have your family tell your deepest, darkest secrets, and their deepest, darkest secrets are just like, it makes me really sad to look at you because now I think you're a murderer and it makes me feel bad. And I want you to just go away so I don't have to do that, is, like, the least worst thing that a family member could say to you.
No, that's fair. And even, like, when the dad was talking to him, it's like, I just have never understood you. And that's been hard. Yeah. And also, I think you murdered the best part of what I thought you were.
Yeah. And then he's like, me too. That was also what I thought. Which was, like, it was super sad. But then his brother comes in and just starts crying. And he's like, what? And he loves his brother. His brother's great. And he just reveals where he's just like, I didn't help, but Lee killed her. And he's like, what? And then all of a sudden
Wait, how did he know Lee killed her?
Because he was there. So the whole thing is that from that point, we go back in time and we start from the beginning of when he meets her in the church, and we just get his entire childhood all of a sudden. So it's funny because we're like, we get this weird kid who says some weird things that make you go, why do you trust this guy? And then he has the explosion, but instead it was, and so he ended up being blind in his eye, but it was, like, still there. So it's like, he's this, like, super blonde, blue-eyed with one, like, smoky eye guy who says really absurd things to you, and you, upon, like, once he has that thing to his eye, it comes out that he has been lying about everything, that he stole this, like, skateboard, and then he also, like, stole some magazines and went around town selling them as if it was for a church function, like, literally a super evil kid. And then then Ig is like, what? It was him this whole time? Is that guy the guy who was, like, made to look look evil, like in true horror fashion. That's why I was like, there's no way that they're gonna show me a Lee on screen that looks like that. Because the whole point was like, we didn't know what he looked like. I didn't know who he was. So when the reveal came, I called it. But when it came, I was like, oh, why? And then they have all that, and I was like, why didn't anyone think this? Why wasn't anyone like, you think it was the problem, kid? No, it was definitely Egg, who's done nothing. Like,
who's done nothing but love her.
Yeah, for his whole life, he's been nothing but a puppy dog. And so it's just like, oh, what? But I think what's really cool about Ig in the book is, like, his reactions to people and, like, his, like, internal, like, it's funny because, like, he's supposed to be the devil now, right? Because he's getting horns. And he does feel good when he tells people to do bad stuff. Yeah. But he still has a line and does not cross it. So there's, like, times when people are like, there's one that made me laugh out loud. I was listening to an audiobook on the bus, and it was, like, Miran's dad, and he was like, I'm gonna scream my daughter's names because in the book, it's a daughter that dies and the wife is still alive. I'm gonna scream their names at her until she, like, leaves the house and, like, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, no, that sounds kind of mean. Don't do that. And so he goes through all these lists of, like, violent things that he wants to do. And he's like, no, you don't want to do that. And he goes, all right, well then maybe I'll just call out of work and I'll lay in a dark room for a few hours. And he's like, yeah, that sounds good. And then I'll put a gun in my mouth. And he's like, no, what? Wait, hold on. You're not doing that either. And it's so funny because it's like it's like 10 things that are awful. And then he's like, I'll just sit in the darkness. And then he's like, oh, yeah. And he's like, and shoot myself. What? No. And it was like, I just burst out laughing. And then at the end, he's like, all right, maybe I'll just drink all day. He's like, please? Is at the end of the sentence? And he's just like, yeah. He's like, perfect. He's like, or maybe I'll make her come home and I'll just like, he's like, I'll get all the photos of our daughters and I'll shove them down her throat. And he's like, can we go back to the drinking? Can we go back to I bet that would be a lot of work. And you know what's not a lot of work? A gin and tonic. Let's go get one of those. So it's like, he's literally supposed to be this, like, epitome of evil, but he's still like, no, don't do that. Like, people are like, can I just, like, go hang myself? He's like, no. And be like, can I go, like, punch this old lady? No. And then, like, if someone's like, I want to leave town because this place has always been awful to me, he's like, yeah, go ahead. You have some keys.
Live your best life.
Yeah. So even when he's literally the devil, he's, like, the nicest kid still. And I'm like, how are people like, Ig did it? But the movie's different.
No, it was a fun time. I really liked the movie, even though you didn't like Daniel Radcliffe.
I did not. I felt really bad, but I hated it.
I had no other perspective. So I was like, this is okay.
yeah.
Well, where I'm at is the whole thing was a good time for me until the end, where, spoilers, Lee dies because he's been harpooned by the horns of Ig. Yeah. And then snakes proceed to enter his body in various locations forcibly. And that messed me up. I don't look away often. I don't like snakes. Good boys, bad boys, I don't like them. Yeah. I'm not a fan. I'm scared of them. Yeah. It's just, I feel like it's normal, and I'm not going to apologize.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't love the movie at all.
Yeah, I mean, it made me want, if I know the book is better, I was like, oh, maybe I want to read the book. Yeah. Especially after, like, learning, like, what it was about. Like, for real. And I was like...
It is a tough thing when you read stories about women and they're not around and we can never get their point of view. Yeah. We just hear from them through the lens of other people who didn't know her enough. Like, even Ig didn't really know her. The way that he reacted was like, why don't you know who she is? Why do you believe this? And I get because you're, like, vulnerable already and you would, like, it's the worst thing that could ever happen to you is that she's leaving you. Yeah. And so, like, that could trigger, like, a defensive response. Yeah. But it just seemed to me like, what are you doing? I think the movie, it starts out very similar to the point where a lot of the dialogue is verbatim. But then it differs because it's really hard to tell this story because you don't have the flashbacks. Like, you don't have the emotional ties and, like, their growth. And you don't have Lee's point of view, which is, like, a whole, because we see from his point of view because she touches him. You see all the stuff where he's like, oh, she wrote a letter where she said she has a hot, icy blonde friend who is interested, but there is no friend. It's definitely her. And like all these things where it's very clearly like she's just being his friend and he's reading into it and you're like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
But you don't get that. You just think, oh, he's a bad guy. But then you also don't like hear about him like slowly murdering his mother or like being evil in all these other ways. So you're just
I
like,
know
oh,
he
this
slowly murdered his mom.
Yeah, it's like
You
this.
need to warn somebody.
So, well, that's like you. We literally just had to be like, you just have to like he has to have that turn, and then we're like, oh, he was just evil this whole time, and it's kind of like it's a little fun when you're watching it on screen, but you don't feel it as viscerally as when you're like, oh wow, this explains. He's just like this. You know?
Yeah, I thought the Marin thing was cool, and that like, I feel like a lot of times when you're in relationships where your focus is what your life will be like your future, you kind of lose sight of who's in front of you.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's probably part of what happened.
Yeah, and she was very real. She was like, you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what we're supposed to be. Like she even says like you were always like in your head and so there's always fantasy with you, which is why like I feel like that argument that they're having is like to me sounds like was probably very close to home for Joe, where it was just like you were always like everything is always like some fantastical, supernatural, like insane reason why you're doing like why things are happening. Like it's like nothing just happens. She's like frustrated because she's like, I just want you to see me for who I am and not like, and even like the brother even says at one time where he's just like, oh, I guess he finally saw that Mirren's just a person and is not this magical being who like is untouchable. Like, no, she's kind of a little slutty. She dresses that way. She has her own dreams and they might be different from yours. She's not just like virginal, beautiful princess that everyone keeps saying she is. She's an actual human being who can like do whatever she wants. Yeah. And it's like, and I think that's kind of like a part of like who Ig was, where he was just like, oh, right, people are not nice. People aren't always nice. Yeah. Which was his downfall. We also watched something else.
So we watched NOS4A2, which I did not realize that's how you said it until I read it for real. Yeah. I was like, letters and numbers.
It's spelled like a license plate.
Yeah. I was literally just like, letters, numbers.
Because it's a car.
This show is letters, numbers.
That's good.
It is
NOS4A2.
Yeah, it did not register for me until you kept saying it. And the first 3 times you said it while we were on
we didn't watch that.
I was like, NOS4A2? Like, the vampire guy?
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, we didn't watch that. What do you mean? So, that director is various.
Because it's a series, it's a TV series. So it
was more than
and it was from 2019.
Yes, so it's new.
Yeah.
So Charlie Manx, a seductive immortal who feeds off the souls of children, has his whole world threatened when a young woman in New England discovers she has a dangerous gift.
This was from IMDb. I did not call him seductive myself.
I was like, what?
I don't feel that way about
person.
Well, he became young.
I know, through the souls of children.
The actor right now.
We didn't watch the whole thing.
No.
But it was definitely interesting. It was like, I would watch this normally. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a show that, like, it was easy to get into. The only reason we didn't watch all of it is because I have to go to bed before 11.
There's only so many times in the day to be watching. One fun thing that I found when I had no idea what NOS4A2 was about. Yeah. I was like, oh, cool thing. I'm going to click it. I was like, click. Yeah. And then it wasn't anything that I thought it was. I was like, wow, this is something that if I stumbled on this into like Netflix, I would have been like, yeah. It takes place in Ohio, one of the square ones. But it's called Here, which I thought was cute. And then it also takes place in Haverhill, Massachusetts.
Where
I have lived.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? No one ever talks about that. We don't talk about it. Yeah. We don't bring attention.
Did you recognize anything?
No.
Does that bridge exist?
It
was knocked down 15 years ago.
I don't remember. But besides that, it's cool. I was kind of like bored whenever the family quarrels come in. Because I'm like, it was kind of cliche. Like, the one thing I liked about it was, so we have this character, I'm blanking on her name, I'm really bad at names today.
I really liked her accent the whole time. She was like, I'm from here.
Yeah, I did think it was funny the whole time, because I was like, oh, here it goes. If I hear a Boston accent,
I'm not used to kids having
Yeah.
Boston accents.
But what I liked about it was that so she has the main character, one of the main characters. Her dad is like an alcoholic who is abusive.
Yes.
But they do a really good job of showing that he's like the one who's compassionate to her.
Yeah.
And like takes care of her when she's like upset, or care of her when she's upset. And like so you kind of understand why she stays and why she cares. Because like, and she also feels like she in turn has to protect him. So like she goes and like he like leaves the family in like episode 2 and is like with some like random townie, and she like goes in like to that, she goes to live with this, he's cheating on her mom and she's gonna live in this house with him because she wants to make sure that he's safe.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that he left because just yesterday he hit her mom.
Yeah.
Her ma.
I mean, yeah, I feel like it was, not that this is always a thing, but it kind of ties back to the little bit of a cliche where it's like the cool dad, even though he's the worst. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, I always forgive my dad.
Yeah.
He don't know no better.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, he does.
Yeah.
Yes, he does. He's just being a bad guy.
Well, that's like,
And it's like he's cool because he doesn't have any of the responsibility. It's like, oh, it's always so cool to be dad, or you don't have to actually like do
Pay the bills,
anything.
clean up after you
Not hit me
broke
when you
things.
drink vodka. Like,
Ooh, who knew?
Stuff like that.
Yeah, well, it kind of makes me
Cool
think
dad.
of in It with Bev. Like
Yeah.
what you don't see on screen because it's really hard. Like it's also not fun to do. But Bev, the character, is like she does love her dad.
Yeah.
And she has like a big struggle where she's just like, but I love him, so I don't like I must be doing something wrong if my dad is hurting me this way.
Yeah.
So I have to do better. And then also simultaneously being like, but he's also the worst. So I don't understand. Like there's this struggle within that character.
Yeah.
So I think it's like really interesting that,
That is
like
really
that's
hard
also
to portray
like
on screen.
Yeah. So to have that in this way on this screen was like I thought it was interesting because I was like, oh, we are getting this like thing, and it was interesting. I do like the Christmas land thing.
It was interesting, yeah.
With the kids, and he's siphoning their youth. Spoilers. Another thing I didn't like is that there's a trend in the kingdom of using people who are neurodivergent as tools and like Igor types for the big bad.
Yeah.
Which is like in The Stand. We have that where we have someone who is neurodivergent and is used as this tool for like a really big bad. And it's like we see that again. Like we have someone who loves Christmas and works really hard and is this sweet man who like cares about his mom, and he's being used by this guy. And I was like, do we need to do that? Could we just get like a guy who's just nice?
Yeah.
Like, does it have to be someone who's neurodivergent?
Well, I guess their false argument is that
they would be more inclined.
Yeah.
But there are people who are just like not neurodivergent, but also just not very wise. They're not like the guy before him seemed like he wasn't neurodivergent in that way.
he didn't seem very nice in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that like, okay, that's enough, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think the twist is that he like found someone who cares about kids.
Yeah.
And so that was like the driving thing, but it's like he's gonna catch on and not like you need to find someone who's like, I dig the fact that you're murdering kids. I love that. But the fact that he has to go through all this work to trick him to be like, I wish I saved you because you had a hard childhood and your childhood died. Here it is, R.I.P. And now you can help me save these kids so they don't have to die, except they are dying. Like I feel like he's gonna figure that out.
Yeah.
Neurodivergent or not, he's gonna be like, you're not helping these kids. That's my one motive.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like kind of weird, and I
think it might
tired.
transcend into fear
Yeah.
afterwards.
Like,
after
and that's
he
what he's
gets over
driving
it,
for.
he's driving for fear.
I was just like, when I saw it, I was like, really? Like, as soon as he showed up, I was like, I don't want this. I was like, I'm tired of this. I don't want it. It's trash. And I hate it. I was like, I honestly hate it.
Yeah.
And then I was also like, I guess it runs in the family. Because I was like, here's another thing. Because there was a few things in Horns where I was like, that seems like a kingdom thing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I guess. Cool. Any other words about?
That's all I got, friend.
Feelings. Yeah, feelings. Yeah, feelings. Yeah, I said feelings. Let's talk about feelings. Okay. And all that spooky stuff. I love spooky stuff.
All right, so if you like it, it's my dad was a vampire murderer.
Yes.
And if you don't like it, it's obviously Lee was a murderer because it was like in your face.
Yep. There we go. Here we are.
They gave him a disability and everything.
For it.
They're like, that's what it equals murderer. Here you go.
Equal opportunity employer, guys.
Yep. So for the topic of Joe Hill himself.
Oh, I love him. Best vampire murderer dad.
Aw.
I liked his time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I sympathize with his time. I relate to his time. I like how he writes.
Yeah.
He has wisdoms.
Yeah. He did write that. I do like how, and I think what we're seeing in a lot of these, and I feel like so inspired to like write stuff, like honestly.
Yeah.
And it's that idea of like writing your trauma. Like, oh, are you having a really bad time? One, like first take care of yourself. Take yourself out of bad situations if you can. Like remove yourself from toxic areas. But also it's like we don't have to like let that weigh us down and like hurt us, right?
It can
like
be
we
what
can
makes us more powerful.
Yeah, like we can turn this trauma and we can share it with the world, and then someone else can be like, "Oh, I totally relate to that. I get
not
that."
alone.
And I can also live and understand. And I think sometimes that's the only way we can really like talk about it too.
Yeah.
It's like I can't outwardly tell you that I am having these things. Like I can only tell my dad, but I can write this stuff down and give you this really amazing story that's like absurd and fun and like scary and uncomfortable, and then like allow you to feel what I was feeling in your own way.
Yeah.
So it's like a vulnerability, and and he's just a really skilled writer. Like I honestly, Better Than Home was one of the best stories I've read, and I was like, what?
Is that the dad?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He writes good dads sometimes. Even like the dad in Horns was like he was pretty nice. Both of them were pretty nice.
Yeah, they're just like, it sucks you're a murderer.
Yeah. And the other one was like, I didn't want to hate you for killing my daughter, but now I lost 2 daughters. It sucks. Yeah, I really like Joe Hill, and I do want to read more of his stuff.
Me too.
I think everyone else should too. What about for Horns, the film?
It's okay. It was the middle ground between Vampire Dad and obviously Lee was the killer.
Yeah. It's obviously Lee was a killer for me. I didn't love it. I just really didn't like Daniel Radcliffe. He was just always so angry. And I was like, I get Ig is kind of angry, but he was also really like sweet. And like he struggled with it. And I feel like Daniel Radcliffe's character was just always like huffing and puffing. Like he was always like, oh, I'm so mad. Oh, the world is so unfair. And the whole time Ig was just like, it is really unfortunate that this is happening to me. And I'm like really mad. And I like believed it. Like I was like, this is what real people do. And Daniel was just like, oh, kicking cans. Oh, I beat up my brother for no reason. Like I was like, what is happening?
I mean, to be fair, he didn't think he murdered his girlfriend.
Yeah, yes and no, though. Like,
because he was on drugs.
It was, and then they wrote that in there because he's not like that. Like his brother's really nice and immediately tells him what happened. Yeah. But of course, it ruins like this story. But yeah, I just really did. I need to watch something else with Daniel Radcliffe to redeem him in my eyes.
I'm just saying
I might watch the
Swiss
Swiss Army Man one where I don't think he talks the whole time. I think he's just there, which I can deal with.
I think he was good in that.
If he's not going around huffing and puffing and kicking stuff.
Okay.
Got horns on my head.
Jeez, horns.
This is what anger is. An American accent. That's my Daniel Radcliffe.
It was not that bad. It was okay.
I didn't like it. What about NOS4A2?
It's cool.
Yeah, I feel that. I don't know.
I don't feel we got enough into it to really give it a fair rating. I definitely think like if we had just found it like randomly, we definitely would have watched at least the first season.
Yeah.
But we only watched 2 episodes, so I don't feel like we have a accurate enough lens to give it a full rating. But I thought it was okay for the start, and maybe it gets better.
Yeah, I think if we can stop dealing with her family sadness.
Yeah.
And we got into the supernatural stuff, I'd be down. Because I'm like, I want to know about Kristen's Land. I want to go back to the girl who can put her hand in the Scrabble bag. I want to know who else has, like, these powers.
Yeah.
Like, I want that. And then it's just like, oh, someone's real sad. And she runs away all the time. And I'm like, okay. Like, we all have trauma.
If anything, she's handling it very much like a middle schooler
like a,
would.
Yeah, like a
or
teenager.
high schooler, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I get it.
So, like, at least that's realistic.
After, like, the second time, I was like, I don't need this anymore. And then it happened, like, 7 more times. Yeah, I love Joe Hill. I must have joking. Joe Hill.
I like Joe Hill, too.
I love this whole series. I thought I learned a lot about people, and I enjoyed, like, doing literature analysis, because that's one of my favorite things. Yeah, that wraps up our horror writers series for the spooky month.
Dope. It's not like we're never going to talk about it again. Give us some recommendations, y'all.
Yeah, tell us more people. Is someone we didn't talk about, like Clive Barker or something, like, tell us about it, and maybe I'll consider it. If you got some ladies, we're 100% on board. It's very hard to find. All right, yeah. Well, if you're on the Apple iTunes time, give us a rating and a comment.
Yes, please.
We
Also,
need it. Yeah.
Don't get married.
Delete your kids. Okay. Bye.